everyone, welcome back to Too Cool for Middle School. I have a quick video for you today. I'll try to keep it quick. I just have a back to school tip for history teachers. I've already planned out my first lesson. I just wanted to get it off my plate. I've had this idea kind of rattling around in my brain for a while and I was just feeling kind of inspired, so I put it all together. I'm just setting this aside for maybe the second day of school. So usually I do little community circles on the first day. We kind of get to know each other, go over a few procedures and stuff like that, and then I try to get into content pretty quickly because we have a lot to cover and we kind of have to get going. So what I really like about this lesson is that it is a way for me to get to know my students and a way for them to reflect on themselves a little bit. And at the same time, it's laying the groundwork for some of the language that we'll be using in ancient history and world history. So this year I'm teaching 6th grade ancient history and 7th grade world history, which I haven't done before. I haven't done 7th grade history. I've done 6th, 7th, and 8th English and 6th and 8th history. And then 7th history was my only one I hadn't checked off the bingo card yet. So I'll be doing that this year too. I'm pretty excited. I already have some resources up actually, because I've been researching and looking at what's coming up. So I'll have more of that coming your way soon. I have a lesson on the golden age of Islam and a bunch of Muslim scientists and writers and physicians and stuff, so I can link that down below. For today though, we can talk about this beginning of the year back to school lesson. I'll use it with my 6th grade classes and my 7th grade classes. It'll work for both. And it's gonna introduce them to the G.R.A.P.E.S framework, which is something that most history teachers use. It stands for, let's see if I can remember, geography, religion, achievements, politics, economics, and social structure. So acronyms are useful sometimes. I'm not really strict about sticking to that framework and doing everything, in that exact way, but it is something useful that we kind of follow throughout the year as we look at different civilizations. This is called The History of Me. So students will be telling me a little bit about themselves and learning about these different aspects of a civilization, and then also just looking at how they fit within history and fit within a civilization. So I've looked for lessons that are kind of, why should we study history, introduction to history type of things, and nothing has really gone over that well so far. I'm going into my 13th year of teaching middle school history, and this is the thing that I'm most excited about. So I have it on my phone, just looking at it here. Okay, so this is pretty simple, but it's gonna take a class period for me, for sure. So I will share a copy of this with all of the students. They'll each have their own that they can type in. It's in Google Slides, or you could download it as a PowerPoint if you use PowerPoint instead. So it says A History of Me, and then we'll go over what G.R.A.P.E.S stands for and just kind of get them used to that language. And there's a slide where they just put in their name and a few things about themselves, and then we get into geography. Usually when I get my 6th graders, they haven't done a whole lot of geography, and so we'll just start off by looking at which continent we're on, which country, which city, and then I also put the closest ocean to me. These are all editable, so you could change it to the closest Great Lake to me if that's the area you are in, or the closest mountain range or something like that. But I just wanted them to have a question where they are looking at their location relative to something else. And they can look these things up if they don't know. But I would kind of go through these together with them and have them kind of looking up their answers. The next slide is for religion or beliefs. And so this one is just more about why do you think it's important to be a good person? What kind of rules do you think people should follow? What kind of things do your parents teach you are important? And so when we eventually look at religions of different civilizations, the way that people conceptualize the afterlife or punishments from the gods and stuff like that determines how they behave, at least for some people. And so for us, this is just kind of looking at their general view of why should you treat people well, if you should at all. And so I was also thinking that, they'll turn this into you and you'll have access to it once they're done. So then later in the year, if you are having an issue with a kid, maybe if they aren't treating people well, this could be something to like look back at and just reference again and maybe like talk about, you know, potentially useful information for discussion. So the next one is achievements, like what makes you stand out. You know, when we think of ancient Egypt, we think of the pyramids, the Colosseum. When we think of Rome, like what are some things that are unique and distinctive about you? The things that the kids are talented at, subjects that they like best, things like that. So again, this is kind of helping you get to know your students at the same time, and then hopefully just helping them make a little bit of a connection between the achievements of a civilization and of themselves. The next one is politics or government, and so this is just like a fill in the blank for them. They can look these things up. Who is the president or maybe prime minister of their country? Again, you can like edit these if the wording is different for you. Governor, senators, mayor, principal. So all of us exist within some kind of a government, and there are like people in authority making rules and things like that for us. So even if we're young, even if we're students, we are under some kind of a government. And then we can look more closely at that when we get into the different civilizations, but kind of helpful to put themselves in that context. Do you like how I'm like charging my phone all the time? My phone is really old. It's probably like 5 years old. Jensen was really little and he's 8. So it's maybe like 6 or 7 years old and it does not hold a charge. But I have a very cute little boba case. My summer school students like bullied me into buying this and I'm glad they did. Okay, speaking of buying things, economics is the next one. Like how do people make money and spend money? Even if you're a kid, like people are spending money on you. And this is an interesting part of like the division of labor that we'll see when we get into like the features of a civilization. And I also have kind of a similar lesson to this for like the features or characteristics of a civilization. I can link that down below too, but students do kind of the same thing where they like look up and find examples and pictures of like how these different characteristics of a civilization show up in their lives and how they operate. So, you know, we can't all be able to build a house and plant a garden and harvest food and cook food and trade food and ship food and package food and, you know, raise kids and teach kids and make the clothes for the kids and all of those things. Like people eventually kind of specialize and divide up the tasks, and that's kind of what creates a community. And so people do different jobs. So that's part of your economy. So it just kind of asks like, what type of jobs do people in your family have? What type of a job do you want to have? And then places that they like to shop or something that they are saving up for. Could be kind of interesting to know. And then the last part is the social structure. Just how are you connected to people? Who are you connected to? And I do predict that this will be a little bit hard for some kids. Like some kids are gonna say like, I don't have any friends. I don't have a best friend. There's gonna be one or two that I think will like push back on this. But middle schoolers especially like see themselves through like who they're friends with. Like that's how they form their identity. So it does help teachers to know this information, like who are your best friends, who is your friend group. And then it is kind of useful information to just, you know, hear which kids are going to be like, I don't have any friends, and maybe kind of like anticipate that, like how you're going to talk to those kids. And maybe they are new to the school or something and they haven't met people yet, but you can talk about how middle school is an opportunity to find new people, and there are more people here probably than there were like at your elementary school, and you can find people that share your interests and stuff. So maybe this will be an opportunity to talk about some of those things. Who are their like siblings, cousins, maybe if they're an only child, and then like a club or team that they're on. Some kids play soccer or baseball, or they're in some kind of a club within the school or outside school or something like that. So just to kind of get a sense of who they're connected to. And so again, I feel like this is just useful information for you as the teacher to have about them at the beginning of the year as you're creating seating charts, as you're kind of realizing which kids maybe you're gonna pay a little bit of extra attention to, notice what kind of interests, you know, your class kind of has as a whole or whatever. So I feel like this activity is just like beneficial in both ways. It's going to help students understand these concepts a little bit more, and then it's going to give you good information about your class. So that's it. That's all I have in this activity. It's pretty simple, but I think it's gonna be really fun. We'll use it at the beginning of the year. And I have a couple of other things that I'm working on that I'll try to share here on YouTube and, you know, on Instagram. I have an email list now. I will share the link down below, I guess. I haven't really sent any emails yet, but maybe I'll do like a big back to school email. So anyway, I have like 3 weeks left until school starts, and I'm kind of trying to just like knock a bunch of stuff out right now so I can just have some things checked off my list and then relax for a couple weeks. But I don't know, maybe I'll just end up like working on things all the way up until school starts. I don't know. I'm gonna try to get some relaxing in. You know what? You know what is crazy? My 20-year high school reunion is this summer. I think I'm gonna go to that. High school does feel like forever ago. It does feel like 20 years ago, I guess. But I still have nightmares about it all the time. I always have nightmares. I had one last night that I was in an algebra class and I was like, I have taken this already. I do not want to take this class again. And like, they just would not believe me or like not listen to me. I always have nightmares about like having like meetings and like dance practice and field hockey practice and like having to get to work. And a lot of times it is about like taking classes over and I'm like, no, I already know this stuff. But probably like once a week, I still have nightmares about high school. So maybe it'll be good to like go back and like face some of that. I don't know. But anyway, I will try to remember to link everything down below for you, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye.